I'm Sarah Pennells. I'm a journalist. I'm also the founder of savvywoman.co.uk, which is a leading money website for women. And I'm here at Adobe's London offices as part of a series of interviews where I talk to several leading voices in the world of digital marketing. And I'm here with Toccara Baker, and we're going to be talking about social media advertising. I suppose if I was trying to think about campaigns that I think are working, or where I think companies are actually sort of talking about what they do, and there was one, it was a while ago, it's a pensions company, and it was talking about, it was basically a sort of series of video interviews that they shared on social media about sort of what matters to you now while you're working that you might want to carry on doing once you've retired. And that sort of stuck with me. I mean, it was a few years ago, but because it wasn't talking about pensions and saving and tax relief and all the things that, you know, make people switch off, but it was actually thinking about, you know, well, if you like, you know, certain hobby or something, then you want to be able to afford that when you can't work. But sometimes when sort of banks especially have these quite sort of soft films, they just don't seem to ring true. It's a fine balance sometimes between finding something that really resonates and finding something that people just think, you know, nice film, but doesn't make me want to switch to you, or doesn't make me want to buy your products, or your rates are lousy.
In general, building really great content is tough. And then if you're in a sector where the information can be a bit dry, figuring out and finding how to build great content is even harder. You're not as exciting as a consumer brand or, you know, as an entertainment brand. And so a lot of times there was a lot of investment put into how do we provide value to a customer with content without just talking about our products and services, and you know, ensuring that information isn't dry. Now, sometimes it is what it is. It can be a little bit bland, but there's still sort of the idea, especially when it comes to content development, specifically I would say for a lot of these financial institutions, about how you make it interesting and how you make it relevant. So it might not be relevant maybe to you or I, but maybe, you know, my dad has found that piece of content really relevant. It resonated with him. And so that was sort of the niche audience that they were looking to target with that piece of content. When it comes to banking, I think it's a very interesting industry, specifically when you think about advertising. A lot of people choose the bank that they're going to use for the rest of their lives at a very young age. I know that I chose my bank, when I was a kid. Actually, my mom chose it for me. How valuable do you think social media advertising is when it comes to the banking sector, specifically when people have kind of already made those choices about their banks at a young age and don't really move around?
I think the whole sort of the way we bank and who we bank with, I mean, it's just so interesting, because if you ask most people what they think of their bank, they probably don't love it, but they'll stick with it. And, you know, I used to be with the same bank for years as well. I mean, decades probably. But I think what makes people change, I'm not sure it's necessarily about social media advertising. Maybe that might reinforce something, but in my experience, it's about something much more tangible. So maybe it's a good rate while you're in credit, or it's, you know, an app that works really well, or it's something that you are going to directly get from being with that bank. And if the message can reinforce that, then that might help. But, you know, if you look at the figures of people switching over the last few years, they're still really low. I mean, the percentage of people who switch is still really low. And I think it's not so much that people are lazy or don't want to switch, or, you know, aren't sure about the process. People I talk to, they're not quite sure who they should switch to, because they often think they're all as bad as each other. I mean, it's not a very positive experience, I have to say. They're kind of thinking, well, actually, if I switch to this one, what happens if it goes wrong? Is their service going to be any better? I kind of think that things might change with open banking if we get much better information, because, you know, you'll be able to see what the new bank could do for you personally based on how you use your account. Having said that, I mean, I've done a couple of polls on my website about open banking, and there's a real big concern about fraud and the sharing of information, so that's a big hurdle in itself. Thanks very much, Toccara.
Thank you.
Well, to see more of our interviews, go to blogs.adobe.com/Digital Europe.